Bitcoiners, good morning indeed. I'm on time, a couple seconds early, so I'll give you all a chance to get in here. Good morning, Tom. Hope you're doing great. I love life. Things are going great over here. I'm not flooding. We got flooding in Vermont today and last night, but we're good. We're on a hill, you know. It goes around us. It makes it around us. Enmity. What's up, my man? Good day, team. Look at this nice note from P-Man Van. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Great to be here with you. It is indeed great to be here with all of you. Fun mornings. We love them. We love them. We love them. And, I'm telling you, we got floods, we got catastrophes right now in Vermont. Normally, it's great here, safe, no troubles, except when it gets extreme cold, of course, right? But we got a ton of floods. But anyway, the sun is up. It's going to fix it all, right? The clouds are going to be gone today. It's going to dry. The flood waters are going to wash out. There's going to be some damage. Some people are going to be upset. I think a lot of people probably have a summer's worth of work coming. But Bitcoin is running. So maybe some of those people might have a little help. There's an amazing story out there, which we'll talk about in a minute. But let's have coffee first, right? We'll talk about what's new. This is a Bitcoin story. I'll tell it to you before we get to Moscow time. I'm saving the end of today's show to talk about all the good news, but I feel compelled to bring this up right now, which is a guy named Lamar, Big Mar, Bitcoiner, a person I was friends with for years. I interviewed him at a CoinDesk event in 2016, and I also interviewed him for a research report I wrote many years ago. And before that, he's an old-time Bitcoiner. He's part of the Black Bitcoin Billionaires Club. And years ago, he had a wallet, right? Before he got into Black Bitcoin Billionaires and all that, he had a wallet. And yesterday, an amazing thing happened. In 2021, he still had a few of his old wallets from 2014, 2013 that he had built it. He was in a startup. Some people had used the wallet. And when he had to shut it down in the 2014 crash, he was communicating with everyone how to recover the funds in the wallets. There was some kind of a backdoor that was created. It still had encryption. It wasn't a crooked thing, right? Big Mar is absolutely not a crook or a criminal. So what ended up happening was he put out a note in 2021 saying, if anyone knows this person, it's the last wallet, and there's a significant amount of Bitcoin in it. And he said, I just want to find this person and give them their Bitcoin. So what happened was yesterday, finally, this person was found, and Big Mar shared the note, and it is an amazing thing. Let me read it to you guys. Oh, I'm in the wrong. That's what's up. I'm in the wrong notes. I was in yesterday's notes. So here's what he says. So he started off by saying, can Twitter help me find, this is in 2021, can Twitter help me find an old FIFA Bitcoin wallet user? FIFA was the name of his wallet. And her name is Rebecca Heyman. I've been trying to contact her on every platform. I would like to try and help her reunite with her Bitcoin. Please retweet. And so he had, backed up with AES encryption ones, recovery wallet, et cetera, et cetera. So finally, yesterday, wouldn't it be amazing, right, that it actually happened? This person was found, and Big Mar was able to finally give them the money. And it turns out they really needed it. This person had just lost their job and needed the cash and was running out of time. So isn't that amazing? Isn't that an amazing story of Bitcoiners and Big Mar? Big Mar, one of my oldest friends in the industry and just a great guy. Just a second here. All right, give me a second. Now, time for Moscow time. Now that I shared that good story, sorry, I have a child asking for mama, but I don't know where mama went to. And I also have to warn you, I've got to head to the garage today, so my mother will be interrupting the show because, she's going to drive me, drop off the car, and I'm going to come back and blah, blah, blah. So you might have another, break here. So let's get into Moscow time. Moscow time, the fakest news we can find, right? The fakest news we can find. Everyone, hold on one second. Just a moment. All right. Sorry about that. I had to text my wife to get her to come help these kids. They don't know what's up. So everyone's been talking about this Moscow time. Everyone saw it. And it's pretty funny, like pretty hilarious. So MSNBC came out with it saying that, we like to talk about being healthy and lifting weights. This is an actual headline from MSNBC. Why the far right is really into home fitness. Far right's obsession with fitness is going digital, right? So you remember, if you're into fitness, mind fitness, mind fitness. We got more though. It's a great Moscow time day. So the soccer player Megan Rapinoe says that U.S. has weaponized women's sports against trans people, trying to legislate away people's full humanity. Again, I'm going to say that I am mostly only into trans sports. They're my favorite sports. And I want everyone to play together. Just everyone together, right? We want everyone together, right? There's another story somewhat related to that, which is prisons. So I wonder if anyone saw this coming. This is from the UK. Male sex offenders faking trans. No, they're faking. Male sex offenders faking trans identities to move to women's prisons. I would have never seen this coming, guys. Never in a million years. This is a pretty good one, too. Experts speculate that climate change is increasing kidney stone cases among young children. Hospitals have opened stone clinics to keep up with increased cases among kids. I wonder what else kids are eating and doing these days, but it's climate change for sure. This one's some of my favorite ones. These are my favorite, right? So Wired, Wired magazine. So they have a whole bunch of words and arguments and all this kind of stuff about why you shouldn't have a camera on your doorbell, right? And Wired, why we don't need Ring cameras. Arguments are that if you're going to protect your home and you have this evidence for police, it might be used for racial profiling. So you wouldn't want to be racist when defending your home at all. We don't like that. Now, the Wall Street Journal also had just an incredible one today. Just incredible, right? So they came out and said, the country with the highest murder rate now has the highest incarceration rate. So, of course, they're talking about El Salvador and Bukele, right? So El Salvador President Nayib Bukele kicked off a gang crackdown that has strong support from locals who can now live and do business safely. But it faces questions from rights groups. They want to know, how did this happen, right? How did it happen? So there's, did I have any more? Oh yeah, I'm going to get to the RFK. You remember our special category of these? So in the Wall Street Journal article, I just gotta add a few things about the Wall Street Journal article. So here's what, because the activists and the NGOs it's a big L for them, right? Losing hard. So they've got all these people in jail. And here's what the writer says. The strategy has helped lower homicides by 92% compared with 2015, giving Bukele the support of 9 of every 10 Salvadorians. Polls show the number of Salvadorans illegally crossing the U.S.-Mexico border has dropped by 44%. But it has also put 68,000 people in a Massachusetts-sized country of 6.3 million behind bars. That's more than 1% of the population, according to World Prison Brief, an online database on correctional systems. Rights groups said the campaign has swept up innocent people, especially among the nation's poor and indigenous communities, and they are being held for long periods in harsh conditions without trial. So we'll see. What did Bukele said? Wouldn't it be obvious that if we had the highest murder rate in the world, it was precisely because we had a lot of criminals on the streets that were supposed to be in jail in the first place? It seems like basic logic has abandoned Western civilization. So that's what Bukele has to say. And I got one more for you before I get into our subcategory of Moscow time, Kennedy version. So this is on Ray Epps. So Ray Epps, the guy who was at January 6th, right? They don't want him in trouble, right? So here's the thing: New York Times, the case that could be Fox's next Dominion. New York Times, Tucker Carlson repeatedly endorsed a conspiracy theory about an Arizona man inciting a January 6th, 2021 assault on the Capitol. Now, lawyers representing Ray Epps and his wife are proceeding with plans to sue Fox News for defamation. Ray Epps is still up on the FBI website of like most wanted people for January 6th. So he's just still there, just still on the website. We're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. Now, here's the special category of Moscow time that I predicted would happen a few weeks ago, right? That we would get a ton of attack ads on RFK Jr. And of course, here they are. So remember Reason did an interview with him, right? Reason magazine. So now Liz Wolfe at Reason magazine says the following: RFK is not worthy of the rehabilitation tour he's getting from various pundits, podcasters, and tech luminaries. He pushes tabloid quality reporting, and he wildly extrapolates from little grains of truth. So everyone talking about this now. Zach Weissmuller, who wrote a thing a few weeks ago about him, wrote the article, "Why are so many libertarians suddenly fond of RFK Jr.?" So now he's really excited because he says, "Enough yelling at me for my extremely fair questioning of RFK's extraordinary claims. Time to yell at Reason magazine for doing the same." They had another hit piece on him yesterday, and this is from Fortune magazine, Fortune Crypto. They say Robert Kennedy said he was not an investor in Bitcoin. Financial disclosure forms reveals he holds north of $100,000 in the cryptocurrency. And there's one more that was excellent, and you have to see this one to understand what's happening. This was the New Yorker article that I was mentioning yesterday, right? The New Yorker, right? They had, the conspiracies of Robert Kennedy Jr., the anti-vaccine activist and litigator with a famous name and a long history of addiction, has decided to run for president. He's decided. But you got to see the picture. They drew a picture of him like an artistic. I'll try and show you. You got to see it. You got to try and see it. That's the picture they drew of him for the New Yorker article. That's what they drew of him. So he's all gray. He looks like Joe Biden. Right? Walter Kern says, much can be said about this, but the reasons for the flagrant aging of this portrait are well worth noting and speculating on. Projection. We've talked about projection before, right? We've talked about the importance of projection. Here's Glenn Greenwald talking about why, it looks older than Biden, but it looks older than Biden. Yeah. The New York Times, all kinds of people attacking him, NBC attacking him. And it turns out that YouTube had to get in the game too. So YouTube yesterday came out. Now, I feel like this is a repeat story. Like we already talked about YouTube taking down a Jordan Peterson and RFK interview. But I think it might have just been a clip, like one of the shorter ones. Now, apparently the whole interview is gone. And Glenn Greenwald talking about it. It said, Google decided Jordan Peterson's interview with Robert Kennedy Jr. polling at 20%. So Kennedy polling at 20%. Contain ideas that should not be heard, so simply banned it all from YouTube. This kind of policing of our political discourse by corporate giants should be shocking, but it is now normalized. It is also worth noting, this is all Glenn Greenwald, by the way, it is also worth thinking about who is censored and who isn't. Dem Party leftists love to fancy themselves antagonistic to capital and power, yet their leaders, Bernie and AOC, would never be censored. It's clear who is and isn't a threat to establishment power. Anti-establishment leftists, the kind who loathe the Dem Party, are not only routinely censored, but now prosecuted by Biden DOJ. But the good subservient to Dems, Bernie/AOC left is harmless and compliant. One of the weirdest things I've seen is the Brazilian piece around all of this. So he starts getting into his Brazilian politics thing. Schellenberger jumps in and says, shocking and outrageous. Google/YouTube exists thanks to Section 230, which gives them sweeping liability, which gives sweeping liability to platforms that normal media companies don't get. If they're going to deplatform disfavored views, then Congress should take away their Section 230 status. YouTube has crossed the line. Kennedy is running for president. YouTube is engaging in election interference. It's unconstitutional. So talking about this, and it was the path to victory. That was the title of it, Path to Victory, which is what we were talking about yesterday, the polling. And so luckily I got it here before it got suppressed from the internet, but it was the story more or less of where he first saw his path to victory. Now, here's the thing that we got to remember on RFK as Bitcoiners when talking about him, and even because you're just going to hear tons more attacks. They're programming people's brains with these talking points. Oh, conspiracy theorist, right? So that we got the conspiracy theorist defense down. Well, just conspiracy theorist, right? His dad, his uncle. So that one works. That one's effective. I'm generally able to shut down anyone who uses the conspiracy theory moniker. The next one, that he's wrong about a bunch of stuff. Here's what you got to say about that, right? I'm not supporting Kennedy because I think he's right. I don't know if he's right. He can't be right about all of it. He's got to be wrong about some of it, right? I don't give a shit. He could be wrong about all of it. The point is not because he's right. That's not what we care about, right? It's that he's asking questions. I don't think he's out there saying he's right at all. He's saying, maybe, why is no one talking about this? Why is no one talking about that? No one who is an RFK supporter, remember, is there because they think his like scientific method is stronger. No. People support him because he's a lawyer, has a sort of a sense about when people are lying, and can have sort of a reasonableness indicator, which is what you're sort of trained in all the time with law. What would a reasonable person do? Is this a reasonable conclusion? You're basically just able to weigh the possibilities and preponderances. And, that's what law teaches you more or less, is prioritization, cause and effect, and logical syllogisms and things like that. That's what he does. He doesn't know science. He's not a scientist, right? No one supports RFK because they think he's right about everything. He's got to be wrong about some of it. He can't be right about everything, right? Now, I think he might be right about stuff, but that's not it. It's that he's even asking the questions, and no one else seems to be willing to ask the questions. That's the issue. Scott Adams had probably the perfect response to the Reason people with this article about, he doesn't deserve a rehabilitation tour. This is that Liz Wheeler girl, right? So Scott Adams says the following: in 2023, a conspiracy theorist is more credible than the government he criticizes. The public did not create that situation. The government and the media colluded to bring us to this point. If they don't like the world they created, they can debate RFK or shut the fuck up. You don't get the win without the game. No more of that. Indeed, no one is out there saying RFK knows about the vaccines. He knows about this. No. He's saying the incentives are misaligned. We have no idea to tell if they're safe or not, or dangerous, or any of it. We don't know. No one knows, right? So I don't think he's out there selling you facts and details. He's selling you context, which has been removed from literally every conversation. We don't have context anymore. He is the only person re-interjecting context into most subjects. The context is everything. Vaccine safety, guardrails, gone. Who knew that, right? Not a lot of people. On a number of these issues. Yesterday, he was out there talking about food security, right? And he was going to inner city gardens and all that. I was an inner city gardener in Brooklyn. And by the way, his father set up the Bedford-Stuyvesant Trust or something like that, which is still there to this day. It was the poorest neighborhood in America in the 1960s and apparently was just a disaster. I'm a former Bed-Stuy resident of Brooklyn myself and know that the Kennedys still spend time there, right? RFK is more New Yorker than anything else, right? He wasn't really a Bostonian. He wasn't really a DC, Virginia guy. He really grew up mostly in New York and is mostly a New York City fella. A lot of his celebrity friends came from those New York associations. His father, of course, was a senator for New York, criticized of being a carpetbagger at the time because they were from Massachusetts. But nevertheless, the situation there is someone who is on the ground, hearing things, seeing things, interacting with different stories, different people, and is not afraid to say what's on his mind. That's the main issue on the other end. On the other end, who's out there talking about this stuff in the way that he is, right? Nobody, absolutely nobody. No one was talking about vaccine safety 10 years ago. No one was talking about these things. Again, we're not here because we think, or I'm not anyway, I don't know about you guys, I'm not interested in the RFK campaign because I think he has some secret knowledge about science and he's right and he can argue the case. I don't give a shit if he's right about vaccines. I don't care. It's not important, right? What's important is the context is being reinterjected into the conversation around the vaccines. We need context, not facts and science and more reports. You can no data on COVID that comes from Twitter, the internet, any of these studies is trustworthy. And even if it is, I can't read it. I don't know what's going on, right? And I don't think RFK can either. I don't expect he can, right? Or maybe he can a little better than me, but not much. He's not there saying that. He's saying misaligned incentives, system is degraded, entropy is set in, it's a scam and not working the way it ought to. He's not coming and telling you that he has special scientific knowledge and insight, none of that, right? What we're really getting here is exactly what Scott Adams is saying, that the government and the media created a situation where we absolutely can't trust them anymore. It's not possible, right? If you're going to be logical about any of this, they colluded. We saw the collusion with the Russia collusion story. We've seen it time and time again. We saw how they treated Trump. We saw how they managed COVID. We saw how they've planted stories and created false narratives and created completely fake news stories that you know are not true, right? Charlottesville, absolutely not true. The most debunked story going. The bleach hoax, they still go with the bleach hoax, right? That Trump said drink bleach. Never happened, ever. It never happened, right? Joe Biden is still running for president, saying that he got in the game because of Charlottesville, right? No one pushes back on him. It wasn't true, right? Nobody pushes back. So it's clear that there is some kind of collusion between media and government. And for those reasons, we don't know who's involved necessarily. We don't have all the answers. But what it means is we're in a situation where one guy is asking questions on one side of the team, and people want those questions asked. He's not selling answers at all. He's selling context, questions. So we're not, Bitcoiners, I think, in general, are not behind RFK because they think he is a better scientist at all, right? They're behind him simply because he's adding context to conversations that haven't been there. And you can look at all of these conversations that are around, right? It's only the NPCs that can't tell the difference, right? That can't tell the difference. So you can go further and start looking at, the Ray Epps story, for example, is a pretty good example of one. The Ukrainian story, right? The Gal Luft story that just broke today. Again, we've been talking about Gal Luft for a long time now, right? Now, it turns out that Gal Luft was indicted yesterday for the being a foreign lobbyist, but not registering, right? Which is exactly what he's accusing the Bidens of, right? So he's accusing the Bidens of that. Now, we have always thought that the Gal Luft thing was, we don't know, we're going to follow it, we don't know what's going on. Here's what people are saying, right? So I'll first put this note up. Marina Medvin, right? She is a J6 representative. They've called her a conservative firebrand. So she's clearly sort of on the side of the Trump people and the MAGA thing. I don't know if she's full MAGA or not. But anyway, she says, I caution my followers about the Gal Luft victim of persecution thing. It's not the same as J6 or Trump. It looks like Gal was being watched for a while, probably knew an indictment was near. He could have come out with the Biden thing just to make it look like he's a victim of Biden's persecution. Maybe he knows something about Biden, but his veracity is suspect at best. At this point, we don't know, right? And indeed, we don't know, right? Now, I continue to think Gal Luft is telling the truth. It doesn't mean he's not guilty. It doesn't mean what Marina has said here is false, right? It could be both that he was a foreign lobbyist, knew his goose was cooked, and was telling on the Bidens. It could be that he's now getting persecuted for being a foreign lobbyist when he wasn't. I don't know if that looks real anymore. The gun thing looks totally fake. And here's Kaneko the Great saying the same thing. In a stunning twist, the Biden DOJ indicts Dr. Luft. So he's indicted yesterday, right? So we've been following the Luft. And by the way, the simulation winking again. Luft is like a major academic behind the de-dollarization theory and BRICS and all that stuff. So we're going to be talking about that too. In a stunning twist, the Biden DOJ indicts Dr. Luft, a Biden corruption whistleblower, for not registering as an agent of China Energy, while Hunter, James, and Sarah Biden simultaneously collected millions from the same group, China Energy, without registering, also violating FARA. In a widely known text message from July 2017, Hunter explicitly demanded payment from a CEFC executive, stating, "I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father." So that's that famous WhatsApp thing. This is the same company, and now Luft is being indicted for this. Right, it's hilarious. Just 10 days after Hunter's threat invoking his father's involvement, they were wired, indeed, $5.1 million to bank accounts linked to the Biden family. Moreover, this chairman gifted Hunter a 3.1 carat diamond valued at $80,000. Subsequently, Hunter wrote that, "I hope that you have received the information I sent regarding the LNG opportunities in the state of Louisiana. The proposal I shared with you has the added benefit of being good for both the United States and China simultaneously." Reports suggest that Joe Biden was set to receive 10% of that money. While the Biden Justice Department accuses Dr. Luft of FARA violations on behalf of China Energy, it conveniently overlooks the far more egregious FARA violations committed by the Biden family and associates. So Kanekoa asks, why does the mother of all FARA cases, which is Biden's systemic influence peddling on behalf of foreign governments for which they raked in millions, go unpunished? So he brings up, Kanekoa brings up the Marco Polo report again. Benny Johnson says the following: Senator Ron Johnson just said Luft, who was just indicted by the DOJ, should be granted immunity to testify before Congress about the Biden criminal behavior he witnessed. Other people coming in, Charlie Kirk, Greg Price, all kinds of folks. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer made a video on it this morning. Sticks's opinion was more or less mine. It could both be true, right? That they're both foreign lobbyists that never registered. It looks like, according to Sticks, that the point of indicting him is to information launder and sort of cover the story, right? Where no, this whole WhatsApp thing and all that, no, it's actually just Luft, right? We indicted someone, it wasn't Hunter. So kind of like hiding in plain sight by indicting someone else and diverting attention. Typical magic trick, right? So that could be it, right? That could be it. We'll see. The Ray Epps case, again, I would put in this category too of, we don't know what's going on. There is no way to trust anyone. So you got to do your best, right? You got to just do your best. And again, just like we see with RFK and reinterjecting context into every case, not telling you what's right or wrong, literally reinterjecting context into the case, which is stripped away constantly in mainstream media. That is enough to get the ball sort of rolling here. And when you put it in the context of Bitcoiners and the rest of the world, what you start to see is something, sort of a theme that I've been picking up on for a long time here. And one I think is pretty obvious to most people who spend mornings with us here, that Bitcoiners are generally sort of main character energy people, simply because they're not getting rolled like NPCs on every single one of these stories, right? You don't have Bitcoiners saying and wasting all their time on Russia collusion and drinking bleach and what is the government going to do and all this stuff, right? No one's wasting their energy on this stuff. Bitcoiners are out there doing stuff and building and getting things going and moving forward. Just look at El Salvador, right? El Salvador, look at the news in El Salvador today. Look at how great this is for main character energy stories, right? Colliers. I worked for Colliers for a little while, by the way, as a law student. So Colliers, mega real estate giant. They're going to invest $100 million in annual investments in El Salvador now for their real estate situation, because it's gone so well, right? This is their grand entrance into there. This is a company that has all kinds of coverage in America and activity in Canada. I think it's a Canadian company originally. In fact, I think sort of ancestor of a friend of mine started it. So the idea here is that Bitcoiners, because they have this main character energy about them, are able to sort of prioritize the stories that are relevant in the news and ignore the ones that aren't. And because of that, are affecting change at a much more impactful scale than the NPCs who spend all their time crying about Trump and crying about what people said on the internet and crying about safe spaces and crying about all these things. So, it sort of runs through a lot of these situations. And again, it's why we make tons of predictions on the show, right? Because if you're going to make a prediction, it's part of that sort of main character energy aspect where if you make a prediction and it comes true, your worldview at the time that you made the prediction was more accurate than other people who made incorrect predictions, right? So remember the prediction that we made for a while here that you would start to see the floodgates open on Biden and criticism of him in the mainstream media, but it would come at the same time as articles that pumped Gavin Newsom. So I'm not the only one out there saying that, but a lot of people with main character energy have been predicting this, and you can see it, right? This is another one of those things where Bitcoiners are able to see what's coming way before it happens. So you get the Atlantic today, right? Step aside, Joe Biden. The president has no business of running for office at age 80. Then you get these other stories on Politico, right? So Politico has this one, right? Who's in Gavin Newsom's inner circle? The friends, advisors, and staff influencing the California governor. Gavin Newsom's star is ascending, and he's bringing a whole constellation with him. We mapped out the California governor's inner circle. Welcome to the Newsomverse. And they even did like a GIF or an animated title above the fold on the web article, where it was literally like orbiting around, like heads orbiting around Gavin Newsom. Like someone spent time producing this thing and made it flashy and interesting. So there's Politico. You have David Burge, the Iowa Hawk blog, who also predicted this, and he came out and said, I think we need some seasoned Soviet-era criminologists to interpret the sudden spate of White House insiders say Biden is a nasty old asshole stories, right? Because that also came out yesterday, that he's mean to people, right? Now, they removed all context, right? So they're using the same tricks they use. They literally removed all context, right? There's nothing wrong with a president yelling at aides if they're stupid and they can't answer questions. Every president has done that. Everyone. There's no president in the world that was gentle to aides if they screwed up and were ignorant and stupid. Maybe Jimmy Carter, maybe. But other than that, it's normal. Like, do you want a president that can't lay down the law with his staff, right? Now, I know that everyone in this article is assuming it is the dementia piece, because dementia people get old, and that's why you feed them ice cream, right? To bring their temperature down, and to bring their anger down, and to make them happy. But that's not really what's going on here, right? You're getting these articles that are being explicit about what's happening, and now just sort of taking free shots on them is what I'm seeing. And I think you're going to see more of it, right? I see the tide turning here, and I definitely see the Gavin Newsom's piece. And so David Burge goes on, I'm no big money beltway political guru, but I think I have a clue what internal polls are showing when the New York Times and Axios pivot from beloved Joe eats an ice cream cone to Biden screams at underlings between bouts of dementia. And he tweets Gavin Newsom right now with the meme of the guy behind the tree, the guy from The Wire. Or I think he's from The Wire. So the prediction here is that this stuff is going to continue. They're going to keep undermining Biden. It looks like they're going to try this little pivot. Who knows if they can keep him that safe? I don't think so. I think I think the whole thing's coming down. Messy breakup. And indeed, the amount of sort of good news, right, that main player character energy can now observe in the world, that we can all see, that Bitcoiners can observe, and that I think should give us all encouragement that things are about to get much, much better, right? So take the things in El Salvador. It looks like they're solving crime. Did you know that yesterday was the busiest day in the history of commercial airline flying in the world? Did you know that? So yesterday, Friday, July 7th, or no, that would have been Friday, sorry, 3 days ago. Busiest day for commercial aviation that we've ever tracked. So just this weekend, right? Think about what that means. That means that all of these people, the global warming people, the people that are telling you, you can't fly in an airplane, we're going to tax the shit out of it, we can't travel as much anymore. Green agenda. They're losing. They're losing. The airlines are flying more people. More people have an appetite to fly than ever before. Now, prices are a little high, I've noticed, but you can imagine them coming down once this trouble gets solved and people embrace this stuff. You even have this story out of Spain, right, where everyone is rightly criticizing the socialist leader who flew to some climate protest and then biked for the last mile. And, Bruce Fenton was laughing about it this morning, saying, imagining he was the advisor, oh, they're going to be so impressed with you when they see you biking for that last mile. You got to do it. Right. But now, of course, it backfired. Everyone's laughing. And you can find stories like this sort of all over the internet. You get everyone laughing at Leonardo DiCaprio yesterday. So he's got his yacht parked in the Mediterranean for the summer, and he's helicoptering like 2 or 3 times a day onto the mainland to get food. Right. So, that's all going to happen. What about this for good news? We were laughing at Janet Yellen yesterday, doing her trip. Someone called it the Pekin bow, right? Pekin bow, Ooh. So she gave a press conference yesterday in Peking, in Beijing, and she said that sanctions are certainly motivating countries to find alternatives to the dollar. So at least she's living in reality and sees that it's happening, right? She can't avoid that it's happening. Yesterday, of course, you had a big announcement that the BRICS meeting on August 22nd. So that's 3 days before the Fed meeting. This end of August is going to be one of the most important historic events in World War III. I think the end of August starts to look like the beginning or something along the lines of the way we interpreted Bretton Woods after World War II, right? I think you're going to start to get a clear picture of Bitcoin's path to victory after the failures that are coming on the BRICS meeting in August and the Federal Reserve's meeting 3 days later. How do we know craziness is coming from the BRICS? Well, you get a lot of people saying it's happening, right? You got Kim.com this morning saying BRICS is a collection of nations that say enough is enough with endless U.S. wars, financial instability, and U.S. government money printing on the backs of other nations, causing inflation around the world. BRICS will end the U.S. government Ponzi scheme without a war. So that's what one person says, right? You get Robert Kiyosaki saying in Johannesburg, August 22nd, 2023, BRICS nations will announce a gold-backed crypto. U.S. dollar will die. Trillions of U.S. will rush home. Inflation through the roof. Buy gold, silver, and Bitcoin to 120K next year. But it's not all simple in BRICS world, which is what we predicted, right? What did we predict? That the BRICS 2 shitcoin was going to fail. So we had confirmation from the Chinese that it's happening, right? But we also had the Indians saying they're not in, like they're not doing this, right? So the confirmation of the China sounded like this. China confirmed. This is from William Middlecoop, a speaker at Bitcoin Amsterdam, coming up August 12th and 13th in Amsterdam. So here's what they say. China confirms BRICS currency plan. A common BRICS currency will be on the agenda in Johannesburg. Saudi Arabia is among the countries that have applied to join BRICS or expressed interest in doing so. The director of Foreign Relations, Institute of Foreign Relations and BRIC Research, Institute of Sichuan International Studies University, predicted that major progress can be made on expansion, but a bold step to allow many countries in is unlikely. And now the Indians on the other end saying, actually, we're not in. We have some problems with it. Let me see what they say. So they say India's foreign minister declared it will not support the creation of a BRICS currency and will instead look to strengthen the rupee. I'm missing a bit of the quote, but I want to be able to get it to you. Yeah, here it is. So major blow to BRICS. India declares they're not interested in creating a new common backed currency. India does not wish to hurt trade deals with the US and EU, desires to strengthen the rupee, and sees China using BRICS to their own benefit, right? So we never said BRICS was going to go smoothly, right? We never said it was going to go smoothly. You've got the BRICS story, and I think that's going to create this situation where Bitcoin can come right up the middle based on human failings and their inability to come to an agreement on any of these things. You get US prestige of institutions decreasing pretty rapidly, and everyone in the world sort of seeing what's happening, and that should change things. People are ignoring the global warming stuff and are traveling more than ever, enjoying their lives more than ever, probably tuning out the mainstream media more than ever, right? With all that's going on with Biden, the bluest of the Dems, you had Patrick Byrne, is that his name? The Overstock guy, a big Bitcoiner for years. I think that's his name. But I also might be saying the name of the lead singer of the Talking Heads. So even he said the bluest Democrats of Vermont are saying to him, well, maybe these Republican guys are great, right? So again, that's how you can see that the context, for example, that RFK is adding to the situation, to all subjects, conversations, and all that, everything that's been removed by the collusion between media and government, he is re-injecting that context, and there's an appetite for it. So I continue to think you're going to see people who aren't out there saying, well, RFK is right about everything. He's not. There's no way he's right about everything. It's not even close. I don't expect him to be right about almost any of it, right? But again, it doesn't matter. The questions are so important. Someone has to ask them. And if you don't let anyone put context and ask the questions, you're going to get this situation, right? What about this Jamie Dimon speech? Did anyone hear this Jamie Dimon rant, they called it? But he just went on and on about how great America is. And you got to give Jamie Dimon credit for stuff like this, right? And I'm gonna tie this into the sort of main character energy and good news. So I'm not just trying to compliment Jamie Dimon, but he did a great job of explaining, and what a great position America's in. And I believe that, right? I have for a long time here been telling you that I'm super bullish on America, super bullish. But we got to get through this change. He came out and said yesterday, look at what America has. We have all the food we'll ever need, all the water we'll ever need. America is in an exceptional position with education and all these pieces in place to just have one of the greatest, golden ages at our doorstep. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we're already in the golden age, exactly as Jamie Dimon said. But here's a little piece of good news anyway, on top of the Jamie Dimon news and his actually inspirational speech. If Jamie Dimon was serious and he brought that type of energy and that type of main character, Jamie Dimon energy, to the political sphere, he'd be very successful. Very successful. I have no doubt. But he lost a major aide just a couple days ago. Whitney Webb, a excellent speaker, journalist, writer. She spoke at Bitcoin 2023 in Miami and is really having sort of a cultural moment. I see her research becoming more and more valuable. And here she is talking about a little bit of Jamie Dimon's history and where Jamie Dimon come from. This is new information to me. I didn't know this before. So CNN announced a few days ago that James Crown, a billionaire businessman from Chicago, who held several leadership roles, including board member of JP Morgan Chase, died in a accident, right? So Whitney Webb said the following. So I never even heard of James Crown. Never even heard of him, right? What did Whitney Webb say? James Crown was the current head of an intergenerational organized crime family who are an integral part of the corrupt system that actually runs the United States. I wrote about them recently, and this was in an article from her Unlimited Hangout publication. This article is part 2 of a longer series, and James Crown, who played a key role in enabling JP Morgan's criminal activity, likely including its Epstein ties, is due to be a part of future installments. In a nutshell, James Crown and his father Lester are largely responsible for Jamie Dimon being head of JP Morgan and Obama becoming the US president. They are deeply tied to the MI6 and US Israel intelligence and not a philanthropist worth mourning. So, we got BRICS and that interesting conversation around what's going on there. We've got the Ray Epps, I think, smoking gun on what's going on in January 6th. We've got everybody ignoring the global warming catastrophists and laughing at the folks who say we're not allowed to fly. They're just ignoring them. We got the El Salvadorian situation, right, becoming better than ever, and it's triggering people. We got all the gym people now being called alt-right, right-wing, whatever. I see them all coming into the Bitcoin fold with the bro science and all that stuff. We got the Luft case, right? We got BRICS. we're pretty close to a golden age now. If a few of these things fall in our direction in the next few months, it's going to be smooth sailing through the end of World War III, I think. Right? Crazy shit happens. We don't want to get too far out of ourselves. We don't want to go over our skis like they did with the fall of Russia 2 weeks ago. Or, oh, Russia's going to have a coup, right? Never happened. Oh, can someone do me a favor before I get to some of the quotes, and then I'll have to end a little early? Just see if I went live on Rumble today. I was supposed to go live on Rumble, but it is a pain in the ass. So I don't know if I did it right. I don't know. But let's see what we got here with some of the comments. RFK is the only competition that Fetterman has. Fetterman is still the best. He's still the best. I think his scientific method is stronger than these people attacking him. Science is about getting things wrong and adapting. You're right, Slarty Blardfast. But what I mean is, even if he was wrong about anything, it doesn't diminish the value of what he's doing. The value of what he's doing is not being right at all. It's reinterjecting context that's been stripped away from every conversation. Just look at the context they stripped from the Joe Biden thing. I'll defend Joe Biden for a second. Nothing wrong at all with a president yelling at underlings. It's not really supposed to be a hit piece on the president at all, right? Now, without context, I'm against it. I think it's bad journalism. It's awful writing, and is more or less what they do to Trump all the time, right? Just remove the context. If it was clearly a dementia story, I would want to see that context. That's a different story, right? I didn't get my ice cream, you stupid idiot, right? That would be what you don't want to see. But if it's just him saying, like, I asked you a question, you have 1 minute with me a week, and you're supposed to be able to answer all of my questions. If you can't do it, get out of here, right? Like, I don't have a problem with that. And what was the president have to be nice to every advisor? No, we don't. There's no time for that, right? In the future, yes, we want a president who is more royal and kingly and chill and all that stuff. But in the current way it's set up, you kind of want a chief executive officer type person. You think Jamie Dimon is gentle to his staff? No, not even close, right? So it's not in itself a bad thing. But when you rip the context away, you do everyone a disservice. We don't know what the story is really about, right? So that I have to defend Joe Biden is not a good place. I'm not happy in this position, right? I'm in this position because the news can't write an article with context. They have to remove it in order to persuade you and push you in one direction, which was what was done, right? So again, I think Biden's brain is effed up and he should go, but I don't need the New York Times running a fake news piece on it, trying to roll me for their own purposes, right? That's not it. As well as basing your results on observable feedback. No, I'm not saying I'm not saying he's stupid or ignorant of the scientific method. I'm just saying I don't see him running a lab, right? He's not running a lab. So I bet he gets stuff wrong, right? You can't really fact check unless you run the experiments yourself and run your own lab. So there you go. But it's that he's reintroducing context. Imagine voting for someone who pretends to know everything versus someone who's asking the right. That's exactly it, Tommy. That's exactly it, right? Like if he came out, I mean, that was kind of what Obama was about, right? He had the answers to everything, but no one does. No one has the answers. And I'm, whatever support I have of Trump or Kennedy, it's not because they're right at all. Not even close. Right? It's because of the context that they bring to the situation and their actual skills. So there you go. Imagine for voting for someone who can't even remember the name of the country they're at war with. Yeah, Iraq. That was great. Does it really matter what country we were at war with? Come on, man. Yeah, there was a hilarious quote by, we like Caitlin Oz. Caitlin Oz. Oh, yeah. I wanted to mention another thing here from Adam Townsend, who I think is wrong. Adam Scramble. I appreciate his worldview, but he gets a lot of things super wrong all the time. He was really wrong about the Balaji bet, for example. Just didn't understand what Balaji was trying to do. Called Balaji a scammer and was trying to get out of paying the debt, which would never happen. So he was wrong. Here's what he says about RFK. RFK will endorse Biden. As Bernie endorsed Hillary and Biden, all leftists kiss the ring or they don't get paid, and lose all prestige. Unbearable for them. Worse than prison. They killed his dad. You know what I mean? I don't think he is that interested in the prestige anymore. That's just me, right? So I think Adam Scramble wrong again. And even this one where they tried to attack him with the money, right? Like I've heard RFK made something like $7 million last year. You know, all these net worths are always fake, by the way. Let's say he's a multi-millionaire. $100,000. They're trying to say that he's lying now, right? About his Bitcoin, that he's 100K. So what has he got? 5 Bitcoins, 3 Bitcoins, 4 Bitcoins, right? We don't know because he filed up to 150,000 US dollars. But for someone with that net worth, it's like a checking account, right? It's not like it's not your portfolio even, right? So there you go. But here's what I wanted to read that one statement from involving the Caitlin Oz on America. This is what she says. Just succinct, right? So Caitlin Johnstone, Kate Oz. She says, the U.S. won World War II and then immediately plunged into the Cold War. The U.S. won the Cold War and then immediately went to work destroying the Middle East. The U.S. destroyed the Middle East and then immediately started another Cold War in preparation for another World War. The U.S. is war. A normal country wages war with the goal of getting back to peacetime. The U.S. wages war with the goal of getting to the next war. I think that's observably true at this point, right? I think we can now understand the implications of the military-industrial complex when it comes to America's direction in the world. And again, lends to my theory that although America won World War II, Americans lost because they became subjects of the federal system and the industrial war machine. The only way out of World War III is a reverse, that America loses. I was saying this before America was even at war with Russia and Ukraine, that in some weird way, America had to lose the war for the people to win the war. And I think that's what's manifesting itself. I think the way in which America is losing the war in Ukraine is a perfect scenario. I don't want people dying. It's already enough that all of these young, the best and brightest from Ukraine, dying. Like that shouldn't have happened, right? And so hopefully World War III casualties are limited to what we're seeing. But I doubt it, and things could get worse. But in the end, I think, if I'm correct, it's not going to be nearly as bloody as any of these other major conflicts. And in the end, winning the war is literally just turning your TV off and not paying attention to the stuff and buying Bitcoin. I mean, that's enough, right? It's enough to ignore them and buy Bitcoin to win World War III. That's what a weak position these folks are in, right? So not much longer. I like this one. Joe Biden running for anything but the bathroom is unimaginable. Very funny. I'm for whoever pulls us away from World War III. Absolutely. 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 Hunter is living in the White House now. So Joe... Yeah, he is living. No, the whole plan was that once he had the, because you got to imagine, whenever these things happen, you have to put yourself in like a corporate setting, right? Okay, so it's like strategists, right? Political strategists. What they did was they went, okay, we're going to get the plea deal, and then to show everything's fine, we're going to bring Hunter to the White House, right? But then they find the coke, so it's all going terribly, right? But in the funniest way possible. So yeah, I do think it was this thing where they were going to show confidence. It was like the advisors to the socialist in Spain, right? No, the plebs are going to love seeing you on a bike for the last mile. They're not going to care about the other thing, right? It's the same idea. You have these stupid advisors saying, it won't matter. The people are going to see strength. You're going to project strength. You're going to be there not paying attention to what Republicans are saying, right? So Hunter's innocent, plea bargain. But now it looks like apparently that's the reason why the cocaine thing was in such denial. Apparently it's an automatic prison sentence because he was on parole with the plea bargain. So apparently that's why, right? So that's what people are saying. Is Biden being indicted for the corruption or his condition? America is beginning to become the face of elder abuse. Yeah, it's absolutely. Absolutely. Only small countries use Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly. Only small countries. Yeah. High five, family. Indeed, high five. Well, one bad thing about the end of August is that it also ends the monsoon seasons in America. NATO flipped to putting pressure on China for fear of Taiwan invasion. I don't think we do anything. I think we just let it go. That's unfortunately where I'm at, you know. But I mean, August is not end of the typhoon season though. So typhoons are, you know, I get caught in a typhoon every time I go there in September and October. Yeah. September is the best time to invade Taiwan by sea to avoid the monsoons. Let's give them all guns. Ignoring global warming lockdown had an effect on that propaganda. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. NATO has lost the plot and is now pulling out the war crime weapons. It cleaned up the Middle East for a year as bombed. Yeah. You know, isn't it amazing how fast Biden changed his mind on that? Like, that's really disgusting, right? It was so bad 2 minutes ago, and now it's like, oh no, yeah, great, you know. Orange Tribe Rising, yeah. She killed it on, so I bought her book. Great. We're talking about Whitney Webb. Only a few chapters in though. Yeah, one of her books. Yeah, she was great on stage too. Yeah. So anyway, that's what she's saying about Jamie Dimon. So Jamie Dimon, great speech, but his handlers are gone. So if he runs for president, maybe he won't be run by an organized crime faction any longer. Oh, great. Slarty Blartfast says it did go good on Rumble. Thank you, guys. I appreciate helping. Wonderful. Bomatan, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Where do I sats? Give me more ice cream. Thank you for showing up and your breakup. I love it, guys. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I wish someone would press RFK about 2A and climate change and IR reduction camps. The climate change thing was fake. That has already been debunked. That was already context removed. Blah blah blah. 2A, yeah, but look what RFK has been showing, right? His neuroplasticity, the ability to learn, the ability to change his opinion. Again, I don't think he's gonna mimic every one of my opinions. And just like Trump, you know, like I disagreed with Trump on a million things, but it was the context he brought, right? Depleted uranium has to be given to the tank in Ukraine, or the modern tanks are useless and have the same range as all other tanks. Depleted uranium allow tanks to fire 1 mile further. I didn't know that, Clout. That's crazy. RFK is asking the questions and following the money. That's plenty. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you, Daniel. I think Adam I want to point out. So one thing you have to do, it's the same as, so did you see yesterday, Cernovich said he was wrong about Trump, right? That Trump can win. So we had a whole bunch of tweets about it. But by saying you're wrong, it's something that I often say when we get together here. It's the stay humble part, right? We have to say it about Bitcoin all the time. We might be wrong, right? BRICS 2 shitcoin might work. Now, I don't believe that, but you've got to train yourself and guard yourself against cognitive dissonance. If you don't allow an out for yourself, you will shut things down and not listen when something against your predictions worldview happens, and therefore it will trigger cognitive dissonance in you. So when everyone says stay humble and stack sats, the stay humble part's important, really important, right? And in this instance, you got to stay humble about some of these questions. And Adam Townsend, I keep him around in my timeline, not because I agree with him. I agree with him half the time because he is a smart guy. But really, he says things that do create that feeling RFK will never endorse Biden. I believe that. But you got to say it out loud that it's possible. You got to protect yourself from cognitive dissonance. You don't want to be a victim. And an exercise in protecting yourself from cognitive dissonance is exactly what you saw Cernovich saying yesterday when he says, I was wrong, right? He wasn't exactly wrong. But now saying that Trump can win and that it's possible is him modeling a system that will help protect him against cognitive dissonance, which is why I often say I could be wrong. I don't actually think I'm wrong about Bitcoin, right? But you got to say it because you need to be able to have a place to go when you are wrong. And so it's just a good habit to say it almost all the time, right? For all kinds of things that you can't be certain about, that are absolutely opinion and could go either way, because no one can tell the future. Right? That's how they beat all World War II leftover tanks in Iraq during the Gulf War. DU rounds could target them a mile further away than normal rounds due to their weight and density. I didn't know that. He does not know prison saying something like that. I missed it. He said he was accepting BTC and does on his website. That probably just looked at his donation account, the dullards. I think he did more than that, but we'll see. We got Donna Falk with fake stuff, CEO of Binance. Get out of here, Donna. Can I block her? Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, block user. Bye, Donna. Beat it. We don't like you. Block user on YouTube. All right. What do I see here? RFK is the first president who is believably religious in my lifetime. Yeah, I actually love that stuff. That he has a line about that. Americans deserve a president who will talk to them about God or have a conversation about God. I love that. I think that's great. DU rounds are easy to clean up if they don't hit anything. If they hit a target, they turn into a very deadly radioactive dust that also kills the people cleaning up. Oh, gross. Clout. Oh, God. Read Jekyll Island to understand war. Yeah. World War BTC. Yeah, that's where we're at. Carter was religious, but it might not be in his lifetime. Don't forget, Carter wasn't in my lifetime. So it's very possible that these people aren't, but I think Reagan was kind of religious, wasn't he? Yeah, turn off TV and just buy. Yeah. There, Brian, born in 81. Yeah. He have an old guy bias. Yeah. You forget, late 70s, right? Cheers, everyone. Have a fabulous day indeed, P-Man. Before I said I just missed him. I wonder how Carter got elected. Not very familiar with his campaign. Great man. Yeah, Brian, he got elected in the same context kind of as RFK right now. The distaste that Americans had because they'd been so brainwashed by Watergate, the distaste they had for dirty, crooked politicians is what created the vacuum for him, right? It was a once in a lifetime opportunity for a nobody to get all of this stuff behind him. And he just ran a very gentlemanly campaign, but he got completely wiped out by Reagan. I mean, it wasn't even close. He just pounded him. Too weak. There is no way China needs to invade Taiwan. The next major political party coming into power, Taiwan is pro. Yeah, that's what I've been saying, Clout. Yeah, I've been tracking that political thing for a while. The Taiwanese don't want to be saved, right? Which is why I often say, like, in the end, whether we like it or not, and I hope the CCP doesn't get it, and I get there's a whole history to Taiwanese people before Chiang Kai-shek and all that, but they don't count. There's not enough of them, right? The refugees from China overwhelm the place. It's a brand new country. It's a brand new population. It's 70, 80 years old, right? And one day there will be some kind of reunification. There just will be. And I hope it's peaceful. And I hope, again, the same thing that I predicted will happen to China by swallowing Hong Kong. They're choking on the bone. I think China chokes on the bone of Taiwan, but they do swallow it, right? Blinken said it, right? Blinken came and said it. He's not doing anything. Like, we're not going there. We can't. 2A is a red line. Yeah, I don't suspect he's coming to take your guns, is what I'm getting at, right? Is he gonna block states from enacting gun laws? No. I mean, everything. So here's my take on gun laws, right? And this is a pretty, take it if you will, but it's a very clean way of dealing with guns, right? A very clean way. a little bit like the abortion argument, right? The federal government is prohibited and should never, ever write a gun law. They don't even have the power. They're not capable. They lost that appendage. They can't do it, right? But if a municipal government or a state government wishes to do any gun laws, that's up to them, right? I think they can. Now, I understand constitutional reading of states' powers and this and that, but look, America is a federation for a reason. You can A/B test and experiment with different laws. And if one state wants to go one way, I don't think RFK would stop them, and I don't think Trump would stop them, and I don't think most presidents would stop them. I remain convinced that the federal government is not allowed. Zero gun laws. Nothing from the federal government. Zero. They're not allowed. They can't. It's like trying to breathe water. You can't do it. They don't have the capacity. But the states do, and the municipal governments do. So if they want to keep doing that, go for it, right? So if he only takes that approach, because if that's the case, you're going to have plenty of states with absolute gun laws, and it won't really matter, right? Let's just be honest, right? Practicality. So there you go. Is it possible that all of this is just kabuki theater? There's always kabuki theater all over. Is RFK part of kabuki theater? No, that's not what I saw. He looks serious about what's happened. They killed his dad. I mean, come on. He's not what Adam Townsend said here, like, oh, he wants to get like appointed to some shit. No, he doesn't. He doesn't want to leave Martha's Vineyard. He doesn't want to leave the compound. Okay. It's like Trump. Trump didn't have to do any of the shit, right? It's not ego fulfillment, a little bit. But it's also, I think, look, he's lost so much money. He's lost so much prestige, hate, all that stuff. Now, people love him too, so he gets some bonus. But in general, no. This is war. This is war. So is there kabuki theater everywhere? But are there serious people? Yes, there are. Have a great morning, everyone. Keep stacking sats. Exactly. Most likely. Bitcoin. All right. I've gone way too far. He's a Kennedy. Yeah, he doesn't give an F. Yeah. All right. Buy a Bitcoin. Mine Bitcoin. Run a node. Yeah. All right. That's all I got for today, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I'll see y'all tomorrow. And what else do I got to mention? That's it. All right. Peace, everyone. See you tomorrow. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.